In 1846, around 500 wagons rolled west toward California, chasing cheap land and a better life. Most made it just fine. This is the story of the ones who didn't. The Donner and Reed families weren't poor frontiersmen, they were rich. James Reed built a custom 2-story palace wagon and packed fine china, a library, and $10,000 in cash. Comfort would turn out to be very heavy. A guidebook author named Lansford Hastings was selling a shortcut. His Hastings cutoff promised to cut 300 to 400 miles off the trip. One small problem: Hastings had never actually taken it with wagons. In reality, the route was about 125 miles longer, over some of the worst terrain in the West. Experienced mountain men begged them not to do it. Trailblazer James Clyman warned Reed to his face that the route was a waterless wasteland. Other warning letters were quietly hidden by traders who wanted the business. The Donner Party took the advice of a man who had never driven the road, and at the fork in Wyoming, they turned left. The shortcut immediately fell apart. In the Wasatch Mountains, the party had to chop a brand new wagon road through the forest by hand, moving 1.5 miles a day. Hastings had promised a 40-mile desert crossing. It was 80 with no water. Oxen stampeded and died on the salt flats. Wagons were abandoned. They lost nearly a month they could not afford. Starving and out of time, the party turned on each other. During a fight on a sandy hill, James Reed stabbed and killed another man. The group, already resentful of Reed's wealth and his beloved shortcut, banished him. He rode off alone, forced to leave his wife and children behind with the very people who had cast him out. Reaching the Sierra Nevada at last, they were one storm from California. They stopped to rest their animals at a mountain lake. It was the worst possible decision. On the last day of October, an enormous early blizzard slammed the mountains, burying the pass under feet of snow. The way through was gone. More than 80 people were trapped for the winter. The trapped families split into 2 camps a few miles apart and waited out a Sierra winter in log cabins and brush shelters. The food ran out almost at once. They ate the oxen. They ate the family dogs. Then they boiled the ox hides off their own roofs into a foul glue and ground old bones into powder. By December, people were dying of plain starvation. There was only one option left: go for help. In mid-December, 15 of the strongest strapped on homemade snowshoes and set out to cross the mountains, a group history would call the Forlorn Hope. They guessed it would take 10 days. It took 33. A blizzard pinned them down and killed several. To survive, the living ate the dead, weeping as they did and refusing to touch their own relatives. After 33 days in the snow, 7 people walked out alive, 5 women and 2 men, and collapsed into a Miwok village that fed and sheltered them. Word of the disaster finally reached California. Help was coming. But back at the lake, 60 more people were still buried in the snow, running out of time. 4 rescue parties fought their way up the mountains between February and April. They found survivors barely alive on boiled hides. Getting down was its own ordeal. One relief group was caught in another blizzard and had to leave 14 people at a spot that became known as Starved Camp. There, a volunteer named John Stark refused to abandon anyone and carried the children out 2 and 3 at a time. Who lived and who died was not random. The survivors were overwhelmingly women and people traveling inside large families who shared food and shelter. The men, doing the heaviest labor with fewer reserves, died at nearly twice the rate of the women. The single hired hands, traveling alone, died first. Tamsin Donner could have walked out with a rescue party. She stayed to care for her dying husband and died at his side. Of the 87 people who took the shortcut, 40 died. The cannibalism was real, documented by the survivors themselves, far more a story of unbearable desperation than the lurid legend later sold to the public. And the deeper lesson stuck. This overland crossing was so brutal, so slow, so deadly, that within 2 decades America would build something so no family ever had to do it this way again: a railroad. Next time, the Transcontinental Railroad.